So what's going on, guys? DIY Dan here, and this is another episode of Backroads Arizona. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how I prepare my toy hauler for being stored several months without being used to help save money and problems when you go to use it the next time. This video is going to include things like the generator, the awning, the batteries, and the tires. These can all be potentially very expensive things to have go bad prematurely, and I'm going to show you ways to prolong their lives. If you end up enjoying this video and it gives you some good information, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. If you haven't already, I'd really appreciate it. The whole concept of my channel is to give you guys the most information in the least amount of time as possible so I don't waste your time and save you money by doing it yourselves. Here is a chapter index of what I talk about and when it takes place in this video, guys. So if you don't need to watch the whole video, you can bypass what you don't need to see. And let's get to it. The first thing I'm going to go over is the tires. What I do is I take most of the weight off of the tires using a pair of jack stands and the trailer jacks that are already on the front of your toy hauler or camper. My thought process behind this is relieving the amount of stress that is put on the tires in the exact same spot with that much weight sitting for an extended period of time, and therefore creating less chance of a separation in a tire once they get a little older. So right here I'm lowering the jacks down as low as they will go so I can place the jack stands on the back of the trailer. You'll notice that as I lower the front, the back will rise, giving me the space to put the jack stands under it. So here's a look at how low I got the front end in order to place the jack stands. Now, by using the jacks on the trailer, you really don't have that much travel, so you want to get your jack stands as close to the frame as possible and as far back on the frame as possible. Then I jack the front of the trailer up as high as it will go to relieve the stress on the tires as it puts the weight on the back jack stands. A good thing to check if you're going to do this is make sure the motor for your jacks is not getting too hot. So about halfway up, I felt it. It felt like it was getting a little warm, so I gave it about a 5-minute break and then jacked it up the rest of the way. So you'll never get the tires off the ground doing this. However, you will take the majority of the weight off of the tires so it's not sitting on the same spot on the tire for those months at a time that you're not using your trailer. If I didn't already have the jack stands that I was using, I probably would have got something like this so I could have threaded them up tight against the frame rail before using the jacks in the front of the trailer. If you happen to have leveling jacks on the back of your trailer, you can just use those to support the weight of the trailer. However, if you have stabilizer jacks, like I do on mine, they are not meant to hold the weight of the trailer. They are strictly to stabilize it while you're camping. The other thing I like to do is protect the sidewalls of the tires by putting some covers on them. These covers are not that expensive. You wrap them around the tire and then put a bungee on the back side at the bottom. Something else I highly recommend if your trailer is going to be sitting for months at a time is adding a fuel stabilizer to the gasoline, especially if you're running a carbureted generator, because those tend to gum up the fuel a lot faster than fuel injection systems, because systems with fuel injection are held under pressure, which doesn't allow the fuel to oxidize as fast. The best time to add this fuel additive is the trip before you're planning on leaving it for months at a time, and that way that fuel stabilizer has a good chance to mix with the gas thoroughly, and when you're using your generator, it allows that fuel with the stabilizer to be entered into the generator. If you just don't think about it, you can still add that fuel additive, maybe give it a couple hours to settle in and mix, then fire up your generator and run it for 10 to 15 minutes to let it circulate into the carburetor. In all honesty, the best way to keep the fuel from gumming up in the carburetor would be to drain your carburetor bowl. However, in these permanently mounted generators, that's not usually feasible and easier said than done. The other thing I would say to do if you do have a toy hauler with an auxiliary fuel pump is remove any of the gas that you didn't end up using during the season into one of your cars to use that fuel up so it's not sitting for months at a time either. If I know my trailer is going to be sitting for months at a time, I just fill my wife's car up instead of having to go to the gas station. The other option that I've heard people doing is filling that fuel tank all the way to the top, because the more oxygen that's in the tank, the faster the fuel is going to go bad. So if your tank's all the way full, there's not going to be much oxygen in there, which will make the fuel last longer. I personally don't feel this is the way to go, but it's definitely better than leaving your tank like half full or a quarter full. And if you do plan on doing it this way, I would absolutely make sure you put that stabilizer in the fuel. Now, what I just talked about only applies to gas. Diesel fuel can last well over a year without any issues. The other thing I do is, because my toy hauler is stored at my house, I go out once a month and just fire up my generator for about 5-10 minutes. And that is basically just to get that gas that's been sitting in the carburetor out of it and replace it with some gas from the tank. The other thing I like to do is protect my awning, because I'm in Phoenix, Arizona, and this thing just gets beat the crap out of by the sun. On the last travel trailer we actually had to replace the awning, and I didn't want to have to do that on this one. So basically what I'm using here is some pieces of PVC that I split in half. If you want to get a little better idea how I did this, I'm going to post a video that you can click on at the end of this one. The other thing you're obviously going to want to do is try and maintain your batteries if it's going to be sitting for a while. The first step in this process is shutting off your master battery switch, and that will make it so nothing is drawing the batteries down while it's sitting. To keep your batteries charged, I think these days the best option is some solar panels. I actually have 3 that are permanently mounted on my roof that are always charging the batteries or maintaining them. But if you do have access to an electrical outlet, a little trickle charger will work just as good. Or get one of these adapters that goes from 30 or 50 amp or whatever you have on your camper down to a regular 110 outlet, and you can use the onboard charger to maintain the battery that way. Or just get a portable solar panel that when you're not using your RV or camper, you just clip them on with alligator clips onto the battery and let it keep it charged that way. If you allow your batteries to go all the way dead, you can charge them back up, but I believe this takes life away from the battery every time you have to do this. Now, I know they say deep cycle batteries are made to go dead and then come back up, but I still feel you're going to get a better lifespan out of that battery if you keep it above a constant 10 volts. So that's going to wrap it up for this video, guys. Hopefully it gave you some good information and ideas on how to keep the cost down on your RV or camper a little bit. If so, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. I'd really appreciate it. And I hope to see you next time. Have a good one. Later.